I know. PaperCut is so easy to install and work with that it can be a natural tendency to say, hey, let's put in a trial so you can see it. While this tactic will work in some cases, I would like to help you have a better success rate with your trials of PaperCut, whether you're doing them yourself or using the incredible solution architects right here at ACDI. I'm Doc Balgi, subject matter expert, and certainly glad to have you with me today, hoping these ideas will provide the tips you need to make all of your trials successful. I've combined best practices into this informative webinar, and of course we'll have Q&A afterwards. Here's what's coming up. We'll start by talking about ACDI trials, and then move into how to properly prepare the environment and your customer for the joy of having PaperCut to see what's going on with all their printing, copying, and scanning. I'll also cover success criteria with key elements to make sure you and your customer are on the same page. We'll then take a look at what items should not be included in a trial of PaperCut and wrap things up with a how to get support for your trial. Let's get started. One of the biggest questions I get is, how do I obtain a trial license from PaperCut? It's easy. All you do is install PaperCut. The installer link is on your partner portal, and once you install it, the software is unlocked and wide open for 40 days. That's a very gracious time period, and that should work for the vast majority of installations. If for some reason you do need to go longer than 40 days, then a business case will just need to be stated and the request is submitted to ACDI for review. What if they have PaperCut NG and want to test MF? Or how about an existing print management solution? Well, the best thing to do here is to create a VM for testing. While an NG upgrade is simply done over the top, if the customer wants to go back to NG after an MF installation, then a reinstallation would need to happen. So it's best to test on a different server. Any trial that goes to sale can be changed to a production model of PaperCut just by uploading the license file into PaperCut, a task that takes all of 30 seconds or so. With a free trial from ACDI, our solution architects will configure one application server, connecting it to a directory service of your choice. That could be Active Directory, G Suite, LDAP, or many others. Our trials include configurations of up to 2 embedded devices of any OEM. They can even be different, as a trial license is wide open for all manufacturers and as many as you want. However, our free trial installs are limited to 2 devices. While print drivers themselves are the responsibility of the dealer and need to be installed and working prior to the PaperCut install, we'll cover that more in a bit. Our essays will set up a Find Me queue for your customer to test that feature of PaperCut. We will configure the mobility print option if your customer requires it. Here we'll use either the MDNS option or known host. DNS can just be a little too time-consuming to configure for a free trial, so we limit it to the standard setups that can be installed in just a few minutes. Same for print deploy. A single zone will be set up if the customer would like to test that feature. Print drivers will need to be already installed. And of course, we'll provide the initial end-user training. Most of that occurs naturally as we install the products. We go over the features as they're being configured, and just to give you a sense of timing, everything that I've talked about will take approximately an hour and a half to get this trial up and running. Now let's talk about the preparation that needs to be done before you actually do the installation of PaperCut. These are critical steps. I've covered many of these in my webinars on how to have a successful implementation of PaperCut. However, they bear repeating and are essential to today's topic of how to have a successful ACDI PaperCut trial. For the most part, it's always advised to have your devices up to date with the latest firmware. We've found many instances of things not installing correctly or performing erratically, only to find out a simple firmware update was all that was needed. Definitely a requirement for success. Type 3 print drivers need to be used with PaperCut. A quick view using the print management utility in Windows will show you the driver type, even on Windows 10. Most Type 4 drivers are like a print to PDF type of driver, but some PCL ones fall into that category too, and it can be problematic when using Q redirection. Plus, you can't disable the advanced printing features too. PaperCut also does not work with WSD drivers. I've said this on many webinars. I'm going to say it again. This is really important. Perhaps the number one takeaway from today. One of the biggest things you can do to ensure a successful PaperCut trial is to have the devices on the network, printing as normal before we install PaperCut. I can never stress that enough. If you're using card readers, then please make sure that the cards have been tested, the correct reader has been obtained, and proper card authentication kits are ordered for those OEMs that need that. Hopefully, you have told us what make and model MFP you're going to be using with the trial. Once we know, we will send the current embedded manual for you to review. Share it with your end customer as well, so they'll have some knowledge and expectations. If you're doing the install, please download the current manual from the portal, as these manuals change as often as PaperCut changes versions, and that's several times a year. They're always up to date. We've had cases where we're trying to embed PaperCut only to find out that the customer is using some other print management software, and that just doesn't work. You can't have two print management software solutions controlling the entire environment. In these scenarios, we highly recommend using a separate VM to host the PaperCut trial and then designate one or two devices for the trial. Those devices need to be wiped clean of the existing account control so we can embed PaperCut, which brings me to the next point, having a hardware technical resource on site. With current conditions, I understand this might be hard to do. However, going back to our title of having successful PaperCut trials, this step can be vital. A hardware tech might be needed for MFP configurations, as some models might need a port changed under what's known as service mode, kind of like the registry in Windows or terminal on a Mac. And you want someone there that knows how to get into those functions. There may also be a need to turn on card readers or reroute their cables, even provide or reset a device password. Plus, you don't want something as simple as a paper jam or a scanner misfeed to ruin your whole trial either. A hardware technician is a valuable asset to have on hand. And if you follow best practices, we're only talking about having them there for about 2 hours. The object of a trial is to show how easy PaperCut is to install and get things running. It's not meant to replace a full installation where everything is used, turned on, and functioning for the entire company. A trial is just that, a trial. Typically a subset of the organization where you want to have a limited group of people using some of the basic features of PaperCut on a couple of devices at most. That's the best way for a company to experience PaperCut, because PaperCut can do a lot. So you want to provide a taste of the software, and the customer is free to fiddle around with it. You know, the knowledge base is incredible as well. But now, if everything needs to be tested, then that's called a proof of concept. And I would encourage you to discuss that scenario with your ACDI sales rep, as there will be fees attached to something like that. There are some things on an ACDI free trial that we will not provide. Payment gateways. There can be scripting involved, and some of the back-end gateways need a connector on that side as well that might cost some money, and some of those are not cheap. So payment gateways are not available for trials. Integrations are similar. Developer hours on our side. Perhaps connectors need to be purchased. So integrations into accounting software, legal applications, and other software is not available on trials. Print and or the new device scripting. This is another developer function and a paid-for service from ACDI. Depending on the script, it can take a lot of time and testing to make these work right. Multi-server deployments. Again, we're talking about a free trial. Honestly, we just can't spend all day. Our trials are allotted to an hour and a half. So adding extra servers, even though they don't take that long, is not available with a free trial. Same can be said for devices. While some OEMs we can get up and running in a few minutes, others can take a while, and that's why we limit these to 2. As mentioned before, you really don't want to get more complicated than that with a trial. If it's a large company, then it should be a small group that is testing anyway. And finally, job ticketing is not available with a free trial. Job ticketing also does not come with a fresh installation of PaperCut where you get the 40-day trial. So if you are a dealership and you're interested in a job ticketing trial, please engage your ACDI sales rep for more information. Success criteria. This could probably be a webinar all on its own, and I'm also grateful to Dwayne Jewell and Rich O'Boyle, very seasoned regional solutions managers with us here at ACDI. Rich also been on a couple of my last podcasts too, and I really value their input. Success criteria really boils down to project management. I got to get real here for a minute. There are many times when we've had dealerships just throw us the trial. We engage with their end user, and many times without the rep. And the user will then ask us what PaperCut is all about and why we're here. PaperCut is great. I mean, it installs easily. It's really cool. However, if your end user has no idea of what it is and we have to start from there, it's going to be a long road uphill. Yeah, we still win some of these, but not as many as when you have a plan. That's what success criteria is all about. And it's even better if you have a champion as your customer. Now, this person should be the point person within that company, and they should be excited about having it there to check out. Plus, if they're not the one that signs the contract, they should be the key contact to help ensure the success of the project. It works a lot better that way. Now, with that person, you set up the criteria for success. You know, if we show you this, will you be willing to buy from me? Now, you have to figure out what this is, and that comes from the feature set that we can demo on site for the customer with a trial. And now it becomes a defined process. This will also prevent the awful situation that can occur that's called scope creep. Because if you don't have a scope, a plan, things will get out of hand quickly. With a scope, you have some rules. Now, the customer will realize that PaperCut is full of great features. Most of them are included. However, you want to position that as a bonus since, well, we already agreed that if PaperCut does this and that, then you'll buy it, right? We'll certainly add any feature sets you want to the proposal. However, we really want you to concentrate on the features we agreed on. One thing you could do, and it wouldn't be a problem for us to set up, providing we have the necessary info and password, you could create email reports and have them sent right to you and the customer. What a great way to see what's going on. Other than the user experience of PaperCut itself, which is always real cool, these reports can then be used to validate whatever success criteria you have set up. Maybe we find something very unexpected, heavy after-hours usage or inappropriate usage. And by going through the reports with the end user, it shows our core strength of cost visibility and the ability to control escalating cost. With that being said, do make sure that we're setting up some type of cost structure on the printers when we do the install of the trial based on your discussion with a customer. Please don't leave those values to us. Now, what reports do you use? I have no idea. There's 80 plus reports. Which one? Well, that will depend on what you laid out as success criteria. You can always start with the executive summary. I posted mine here as it provides a nice graph of pages per day, time of day, plus general statistics like top users and printers, job types, color, and duplex percentages, as well as environmental impact, all in a nice 2-page PDF. What I would do is agree on 3 or 4 reports that will be beneficial to your customer and then schedule them, whether it's email or to a file folder. Either way, if it's done by email, then you can be included on the response, which would be key to you to knowing what's going on with the trial and making it successful. So what happens if there's an issue during the trial? Well, first of all, it's PaperCut and it just works, of course. Well, I love saying that. And there are tremendous knowledge base articles all wide open. You know, I always talk about that, www.papercut.com/KB. But yeah, things can go wrong. Fortunately, if you're using ACDI to help you with the trial, you're already all set. Of course, that's the purpose of this webinar, but I did want to give you some tips if you're going at it alone. With an ACDI trial, you're set up with a solution architect. This team is growing, agile, and they all work together like clockwork. You know, I'm fortunate that I get to interact with all these guys on a daily basis because they really, honestly do keep me sane. So getting back to a problem, well, they have your back. They have ownership of the trial, and they'll do whatever they can to help. If you're doing it on your own and you have a pre-sales question or you got a problem going on with a trial that you have installed, ACDI does provide email support for you. Please understand that it can take up to 2 days, business days, to reply, but most of the time it's quicker than that. But just want to let you know there could be a delay since we may be working with known trials. If you want to make sure your trial is extremely smooth, then please engage our solution architects and follow their advice. They'll guide you along as they are dedicated to your success, and they're all great to work with. You'll actually have some fun. I guess what really irks me is the salesperson that just wants to throw this over the fence and then come and collect the order. It doesn't work that way. I remember when I was a down-the-street copier rep, it was all analog in those days. Nothing was connected. I knew reps that threw demos into offices and never checked. That resulted in a very low conversion rate to a sale, but occasionally they did happen. When I put in a demo, I checked with the customer every day so I could address any complaints or concerns on the spot instead of when closing. And then it becomes a natural close. It's the same here. If you're engaged with your trial and you have our solution architects to support you, your chances of that trial are going to skyrocket. It really all boils down to proper planning and follow-up. And I think you'll also find that your deals will contain better margins, consequently bigger paychecks per deal. You know, it's kind of like preparing a meal. The better the preparation and your attention to your guests, the better the meal. When planned properly, things go well. Everyone has a great time. When that dinner party is thrown together, perhaps the meal wasn't cooked properly. Then you might be calling the doctor, who will tell you to take 2 aspirin and call him in the morning. Because that's what I'll say when you tell me you had a problem with your PaperCut install. Q&A is coming up for those of you live. Thanks for joining me today. May all of your trials convert to sales with these tips. I'm Doc Balgi for ACDI.